Hello YouTube, Captain Mac here, and this Garmin 1000 or G1000 GPS tutorial is coming your way by special request from the Jester. You know who you are, sir. Alright, enough of that. Let's go ahead and hop right on in here. And this is going to be a quick tutorial on the G1000 in the default FSX aircraft. Now that's important to understand because this Garmin 1000 is not quite as in-depth as what you get with some of your payware aircraft. Now I do have a payware aircraft, the lovely King Air 200 from Flight 1, which has a far more in-depth G1000, and I fully intended to do a tutorial on that shortly. That being said, even that G1000 is not quite up to snuff, and what I mean by that, of course, is that it doesn't have everything that a real G1000 has. In addition, little side caveat here, there are several payware add-on aircraft that do have Garmin G1000 GPS systems in them, and I am absolutely positive that every one of them is going to be a little different. However, I have found that some of the functions here in this default G1000 for the little Cessna 172 here in FSX are very similar to what they are in a payware version with more functionality. So we're going to take a quick look at some of the functionality in this one here, and then I will do a follow-up tutorial with the Garmin 1000 that I have in my King Air 200, and I will finalize this little caveat, this little digression, with a note that the G1000, to my knowledge, please correct me if I'm wrong, is essentially outdated already. I don't know what model number they're on now. Maybe I'll take a look before I do the next tutorial, but the G1000 is sort of old news, so it is what it is. Nonetheless, unlike many of our payware aircraft, you cannot simply click on these little windows here to get them to pop up in a 2D form. So in order to do that, if we press Shift plus the number 3, that's going to pop up this one, and Shift plus the number 4 is going to pop up this one, and I am going to pop them up because it's going to be easier to see what we're going to be doing here. So I've already gone ahead and loaded a flight plan in here. As far as the default G1000 is concerned, you must load a flight plan through the FSX Flight Planner. That being said, if you have a program such as PFPX or any of the other flight planning programs out there that will export the flight plan file to the FSX format and put it in the appropriate folder, you can use those to plan your flight and put it in here and you'll be good to go. Alright, so let's hop in and we're just going to go right on down. I'm going to come down this side, I'm going to go across the bottom, up this side, and then we're going to do the same thing over here and hopefully wrap this up relatively quick because I just finished doing my tutorial for the PMDG NGX FMC, and that was much longer than anticipated. So let's go ahead and bring these windows up just a little bit higher so we can see better, or let's just make them a little bigger here. Alright, that looks pretty good there. So starting over here, volume button doesn't do anything. Doesn't work. Don't even mess with it. Our nav function here, this is actually going to change our nav 1 and 2 frequencies. So it's a 3-function button. If you use the right side here, it's going to change the smaller numbers of the frequency. I don't know what these are, megahertz or something like that. I'm not a radio guy, so if you know, go ahead and put it down in the comments. Otherwise, just carry on. We'll go with the small numbers. So I can go up or down with the small numbers by going on either side, and then if I go above or below, that's going to be the larger number in the frequency here. So for example, if I wanted to tune to 110.50, I would come above here. Oh, can't right click in this, sorry. And I have to scroll, looks like I have to scroll back down to 110, and then we want to go up to 0.50. So there we are at 0.50. Now this should be the standby frequency, which would make this the active frequency. So if I want to switch them, I hit this little button right here, and voila, there they are. They've been switched. We are now on 1110.50. If I want to use nav2, I need to find the center of this button here. Come on, where are you at? It's hard to find. You're supposed to push it to switch to nav2 there, but it does not seem to want to work for me. You gotta find the click spot. Oh, I'm not gonna sit here and fiddle with this all day. You're supposed to be able to push the center of the button here to go to nav2, and you should be able to do the same thing over here, and it's simply not letting me do that. Not really sure why. Maybe that'll work. Oh, there we go. So I guess it was down here. So just below down here, it's supposed to be the small enter button, but if you push on the bottom here, it'll switch between nav1 and nav2. Alright, we would change the frequency on nav2 the same way we did for nav1 by using this side for the smaller numbers and this side for the bigger numbers. Everybody tracking on that? Okay, fantastic. Let's move on down to the heading bug here. Or this isn't actually the heading bug. This is the heading bug adjustment knob. This little blue thing right here, this is the heading bug. So if I wanted to set my heading to my current runway heading, which is right here, 322 degrees, I would begin rotating. I'm using the mouse wheel. In case you're wondering, you can rotate the mouse wheel, or you can simply click on one side to go up and the other side to go down. You can see that when I start moving it, the heading pops up right here. So if I'm not paying attention, or I can't seem to line it up just right at 322 degrees, I can always look right here, and when I get that to 322 degrees, that was 20, there we go, 322 degrees. You can see it doesn't look quite lined up there, but we are at 322 degrees. So we have now changed our heading to the runway heading. Fantastic. Same thing for the altitude down here. If I want to adjust the altitude, now this is the altitude for the autopilot. You can see it right up top here, 2,100 feet. Let's just say I want to climb up to 8,000 feet. I'm just going to, again, I'm rotating the mouse wheel. I could click and do single numbers like that. I could click on the minus side to bring it down. It doesn't do anything if I try to just click the button itself. So I'll scroll that on up until I get to 8,000. And now we've set our autopilot altitude reference. Fantastic. Let's go across the bottom here. In the real world Garmin G-1000, every one of these buttons has a function. In the G-1000 I have in my King Air 200, most of these buttons have a function. And we're going to get an opportunity to see that, and I apologize for that going quiet all of a sudden. My computer was doing something else and it switched to a different screen. I don't know if you saw that, but it probably went quiet on you. Anyway, the G-1000 in my King Air 200, most of these buttons do have a function. As you can see, there are only a few buttons with a function on this one here. So let's start on this side. If we click on these buttons, they're not doing anything. You can see that. And part of that has to do with the mode that I'm in. I'm in the transponder mode. So let's go back real quick. And now you can see this is sort of the home page, if you will. Okay. And these first two buttons relate directly to this little inset map here. So the declutter button has four functions really. Declutter 1, 2, and 3, and then just declutter. So the more I push this button, the less stuff that's going to show up on that map. And we'll see the same exact thing over here when we deal with the declutter on this side. Alright, so I can change how much clutter shows up on that map. I can also turn it off by simply clicking right there, and if I want it back on, I click on the inset, and there it is. Also, there's a handy little gauge here that tells us the outside air temperature in Celsius. As far as I know, there is no option to change it. No button here or here. We can click them, but they won't do anything. The OBS here, what does that do for us? OBS. We should be able to rotate the course knob here when we do that. Let's see if this works. Yeah, that didn't work. It stays with the heading. The OBS isn't actually doing anything when I press on it. Not really sure why. Kind of feel like a fool for that because I was messing with it a little while ago and somehow I missed going over whether or not the OBS does anything. I can change the course just by adjusting right here, I do believe. Maybe we need to do this then. Nope, that's not doing anything either. That's awesome. You can't even change the course on this thing? That doesn't make any sense, does it? Oh, maybe it's because it's on the GPS. We'll get to that in a minute. Let's go ahead and move on over to the CDI. CDI is actually what it's using to track. So you know you've got the nav GPS mode in most of your default aircraft, and you do have it in, of course, some payware aircraft as well. The CDI, that's the same thing. Now there is no FMS or FMC in this aircraft, so we won't see an option for the FMC, but if we click on the CDI button, you can see it changed to VOR1, and now we can adjust that. There we go. Let's adjust that to 320. Excuse me, 322. And just so you know, OBS is Omni Bearing Selector, so I'm not really sure what the button is there for, to be honest with you. It doesn't seem to do anything. If I click CDI again, that goes to VOR2. So this is nav2 right here. You see it's highlighted in green. Okay, GPS is the magenta, and then nav1, you can see nav1 is highlighted in green. Let's pay attention to that. You don't want to miss it. If you tune your nav radio to 1110.50 to track in on whatever VOR that is, and it's telling us right there it's the NBO VOR, or maybe that's NBC, can't really tell, then we would want to make sure that we click or push the CDI button until we're on VOR1, and we know that because we've got the solid arrow and our nav1 frequency is highlighted in green. Notice that when I go to nav2, nav2 is the hollow arrow, if you will, and now the nav2 frequency is highlighted. That's important to notice that. And then of course the other option is GPS. So if we want to fly this GPS route that you see over here, we would simply put it on GPS. Transponder, that's to adjust our transponder code. If I click on that, and let's say ATC gives me a code of 1520, I would click this button for code, and then I would click each number, 1, 5, 2, and zeros over here, and we're done. And then I just go back. Now if I need to go back, let's say ATC says go ahead and squawk VFR, I can just click VFR, and bam, it goes right back to 1200, lickety splickety. Press the back button. We've got time reference here. This is basically our stopwatch, okay, and it also has some helpful information here. Our glide speed, VX and VY speed. I'm not going to explain those right now because my tutorials already take forever as it is. Click it again to make it go away, and then the all-important nearest button. This is telling us what the nearest airports are, okay, and I should be able to scroll through those using this button, or using this knob here, and it's making a liar out of me left and right. You can't click on them there, so, and it pressing nearest again just makes it go away, so not really sure. I'm not used to using this one. It's not letting me scroll through those. Not really sure why. If I'm missing something, if there's a trick to that you're aware of, do me a favor, let me know down in the comments. Let's go ahead and get rid of that because we're going to be able to do something with nearest airports over here in a few minutes anyway, so I'm not too worried about it. Gives us local time here. Let's actually go down this side. It'll be a little easier. Just like with our nav frequency on the left side, we've got our COM frequency on the right side. So COM1 is up top. This is the standby frequency. This is the active frequency, and we change it in the same manner. So the smaller numbers to the right, we use this side, and we use top and bottom, I believe, for the bigger numbers. There we go. So we can adjust our frequency and then switch it just like we were doing before. And again, if you push down here, it switches between COM1 and COM2. We already did a little bit of adjustment here with the I'm sorry, that's the barometric pressure. So the outside is the barometric pressure. So whatever our, come on, adjust for me now. There we go. So whatever our barometric pressure setting is, let's say it was 3010, we can scroll, I'm using the scroll wheel again, scroll that up 3010, and the inside knob here, the little triangular knob, that's for adjusting our course. And of course it's not doing anything because we're on GPS, but if I turn it over here to the CDI, to VOR1, I can adjust the course on VOR1 now, and likewise I could do the same thing on VOR2, making sure I'm using the inner knob. Again, the outer portion of this knob, shows it right here, is the barometric pressure or the altimeter, okay, and it's a little fickle there. Looks like it works best if you go up near the top here, and that does your altimeter, and then if you go sort of inside here, that does your course adjustment. Fantastic. As far as this goes, this is your range on your inset map over here. So if I want to zoom it out, I or zoom it in, I'm sorry, I go to this side here and I can click or scroll my mouse wheel, and if I want to zoom out, I can click or scroll my mouse wheel on this side, and there you have it. Easy peasy, lemon squeezy. Typical functions that you're used to with the GPS, default GPS in FSX aircraft. This is flight plan information, so if I click on flight plan, there's my flight plan. I should be able to click this once, it gets the cursor going, and now I should be able to scroll through those, and it still won't let me for whatever reason. Maybe I have to click. Let's try clicking. It just doesn't want to let me scroll. There we go. Now it's scrolling through. Boy, that thing's being fickle, isn't it? There we go. Okay, so it looks like it won't let us use the mouse wheel to scroll through these. You have to click. So you're going to click on either the positive side to go down or the negative side to go up if you want to make adjustments or something like that, or for a direct to function. For example, if I hit the direct to function, now I can go in here and I can scroll down through the different options here. So the next one on the flight plan is TN41, or I can try and put something in here by using the inner wheel, the little tiny inner wheel here, okay, and I can scroll through and choose a waypoint as such. Pretty much the same as it is with the normal default GPS. Turn that off if we hit procedure. Select approach function is the same as always. Choose your approach if it has one. If it doesn't, then of course it's going to tell you that it doesn't have one. And you would again highlight by clicking the middle of the FMS button here, and then you can click up and down using the wheel, but you cannot scroll. We can clear things out, and there we go. Other than that, we do have a little bit more information on top of this thing. This is our next waypoint. This is how far away it is, 1.7 nautical miles, and the desired track to get there. Okay, and then this is our current track apparently, which is showing 0, but that's not quite accurate, is it? Enough said about that. That's pretty much the left side of the G-1000 in the default aircraft. Now let's look at the right side. The nav function operates exactly the same as the nav function does on this side. The heading function operates exactly the same as the heading function does on this side. In case you're wondering, if you scroll it, see, there it is. It's moving the heading bug on this side. Altitude function, exactly the same as the altitude function over here. So that was easy enough. We do have some different features down on the bottom of this one, however. First of all, traffic. If I click on traffic and it's highlighted gray like that, it will show other AI aircraft in the area. It doesn't give altitude or speed information or anything like that, and it does not give you it is not a TCAS. It does not give you a traffic collision avoidance warning. Alright, I can turn it back off by simply clicking on the same button again. This highlighted gray shows me that I'm in the Topo map. You may also know this as terrain mode in your typical default FSX GPS. If I click the button again, it goes to the regular black and blue mode that we're all so wonderfully familiar with. I personally tend to fly with the Topo mode or the terrain mode anytime I'm using a default GPS because I like to see my terrain. If you don't know how this works, the darker the color gets towards orange or brown, the higher the terrain is, and then of course blue equals water. No other functions along the bottom through here until we get to the declutter function. And let's go ahead and zoom this out real quick. That's zooming in. We want to zoom out, way out. Alright, just so that we can see, that's our route right there. Now if I hit declutter 1, what we see is we see some various VORs out here. Fantastic. We still have airports showing out there and some other information. If I hit declutter 2, you see that the VORs have gone away now, but we still have large airports in the area and then the airports that are associated with our route. And declutter 3 gets rid of everything pretty much except our route, and then we go back to the regular, the first declutter. Now we've got airspace, VORs, airports, the whole shebang. It's all in there. Good times. We're all having a blast, right? Let's zoom this back in. That's the wrong way. Oh, and yeah, one thing I do like about this is you can zoom this sucker all the way out to 2,000 nautical miles. So if you've got a long flight, which you're probably not going to have a flight that long in this one, that's a lot of clutter there. If I hit declutter once, still looks pretty cluttered. Hit it again. Ah, that's better. I can actually see a few things, and one more time, and then there's nothing in my way. Alright, so that's the purpose of the declutter there. So just something to keep in mind. Alright, enough about that. If we hit the back button here, you can see we can go map. As soon as I hit that, the traffic option pops up again, and so on. Okay, good to go. Now, there are a few other functions over here that we don't have on the other side. You see we've got map, waypoint, and nearest. And if I go to the outer wheel here and click it once, this gives me options to look at other things. So while I'm here, I go to the inner wheel and click it again, and I can get more information. And you can see I've got 1, 2, 3, 4 pages on there. Alright, so this first page, this gives us the airport that I believe we're at right now, TN41. Tells us what airport it is, coordinates, the runways, the airport elevation, the runway type, whether or not it's got lights. Fantastic. Go to the next page here. This is an intersection. This is probably the nearest intersection is what it is. So the nearest intersection is Wordy, and it's up here. TN86, if you can see over here, TN86 is actually a waypoint on our route. So we're coming from down here. The nearest intersection to us is Wordy. And that's the information for where that's located. And then you've also got nearest VOR on here, which gives the designator for the VOR, HCH, the radial you can find it on, and how far from you it is. Great. Let's go to the next page. And this is the nearest NDB. Same basic information. And then here's more information on that nearest VOR, including the frequency. Okay, fantastic. Now let's click that outer wheel again. And let's see, where are you going to take us to? Come on now. Nope, it's just going through those same pages now. Okay, so now we're on the map again. If I want to go to waypoint, click the inner wheel. Come on. It's not doing anything. It's just that outer wheel there. That's all it does. So it's got, for some reason I thought it had one more function in it. So it's got our nearest waypoints, and then there's also a way to pull up the nearest airport on here, and that is what? We can change that with the cursor there. We don't want to do that. So turn the cursor off, and as you can see, I'm kind of learning some of this as I go as well, and that's all right. Cursor off. Let's go back over here. Let's turn this bad boy off now. Come on, turn off. I guess we can hit back. Come on. It's not working very well for me. Cursor off. There we go. There it is there. And yeah, that's pretty much the gist of that. Now we can also pull up our flight plan over here, and unlike the small little window we get on this side, we get a little bit better view here. And then within this, we should be able to, if we turn that cursor off there, we can, let's see, where are you at? You're supposed to be able to pick the nearest airport in here as well. Ah, there we go, nearest airports. So when I hit flight plan, and then I hit that first button to the right, it gives me this list of nearest airports, right? So I can click on that, and then I can scroll down maybe. This thing does not like me, folks. I can scroll down through the nearest airports, and you can see it tells me how far they are from me and what their current heading is from me. If I go to the turn that off and go to the next page over, come on, next page. It's the inner wheel there. There we go. That's the nearest intersections: Wordy, Sutuk, Watts, and so on. This is the other function I was looking for, by the way. Click it one more time. That's going to give me the nearest NDBs, and again, it's giving me a direction to them and how far away they are. And in this case, it gives me the frequency, and the last one is going to be the nearest VOR. So, and again, it gives me information on that VOR. So the first one being HCH, it's 278 degrees at 10.5 miles. Frequency is 117.60, and if I turn on my cursor, scroll down to the next one, it changes the information for that one. Phantasmal. Come on, turn off you. And let's just go back over here. Okay, so from this point, if we go on that outer wheel straight away, we get that same information, but it just gives it to us in small amounts to start off with. And if I click on my flight plan and then scroll it over, no, you got to make sure that cursor's turned off, then it's going to give us more information as such. Okay, I think that makes sense to everybody. I hope I didn't confuse you. You get basically the same information whether you just change the page group from here using the outer wheel, or if you go to the flight plan. The difference is when you go to the flight plan, there's a little bit more information available to you. It's a little easier to see what's going on there, and it's skipping pages on me now. See that? So it's being a bit of a pain, but the same, like I said, the same information is pretty much there. There's our map, and then we've got the nearest intersection, and so on and so forth. Other than that, the rest of the functions work exactly the same for the flight plan over here as they did over there. There we go. Same functions for flight plan here as they are over here, but again, this is a little tiny window and this is a big window, which makes it much easier to work with, so that's always something to keep in mind. Going up here, we have the same altimeter setting and course knob. Same for the comm here as it was over here, and we have some different information up here. Excuse me. We've got our ground speed, our cross-track information, estimated time en route, and what is TKE? I honestly don't know. And it's also telling us what function we're actually looking at here right now. So this is the navigation map, and of course if we press this again, that should change, right? Nope, it's just going to stay on navigation map. So, and I don't really think there's anything else you can do with this thing. You can't change whether or not it tracks up. It does give you a north-seeking arrow. That's kind of handy. And then of course we've got engine information on here, our RPMs, our fuel flow, oil pressure, oil temperature, engine temperature, vacuum. Okay, the vacuum is what spins your gyros, your fuel quantity, and how long your engine's been running, your electrical system, whether or not it's working properly, basically, battery, and so on. And that's basically it. That is really the default Garmin GPS. And that was a whole lot of talk for not a whole lot of information, but you know what, that's kind of just me. I guess I like to hear myself talk. So hope this tutorial was helpful for you. Again, this is the default GPS as far as the Garmin 1000 is concerned. I am going to do another tutorial today or tomorrow that's going to discuss a little more in depth the G-1000 in the payware aircraft that I have. Please keep in mind it won't necessarily be exactly the same as the G-1000 in the aircraft that you have. That being said, I can tell you that the functions that do work on this one, for the most part, work the same as they do on the G-1000 I have in that King Air 200, which means that the functions I have in that King Air 200 are probably going to be very similar to any functionality that you have in your payware aircraft with a G-1000. Alright, I'm done talking for now. I hope this video was helpful for you. If it was, please give me a thumbs up down below, and as always, I do ask that you please subscribe to my channel. It motivates me, it helps me out, and it just makes me feel downright special. And I would not want to take off from this airport with a mountain and trees right in front of me. You folks have a fantastic day, and I will see you on the flip side.